Hi there everyone, and welcome back to another video with myself, Nathan Hawthorne. Today on our drawing lessons, what we're going to be looking at is hands. And hands are an interesting one because, of course, when it comes to drawing hands, that's something that we see so commonly, just like faces, that we can instantly spot when something doesn't look quite right. So what we're going to try to do is just look at how we can make it so that most of our hands look okay, because even when they look right, they can sometimes come across as looking sort of wrong. So what I tend to do when it comes to hands is, first of all, try and use as much reference as possible. Like anything else in art, reference, looking at examples of the thing in real life, especially when it comes to photos or to actually being there in person, literal first-hand sources, there's nothing better than it. Nothing better than it at all. So fortunately for a lot of us, not all of us of course, but for a lot of us, we have two hands, or at least one, which we can use as an example. Okay. Of course, the state of your hands and what they look like will affect how you go on to draw hands. For some people who may not necessarily have all fingers, they might not draw or commonly draw hands with all the fingers and so on and so forth. But when it comes down to it, you are your best source for this. And unlike with drawing the face, you don't actually need a mirror. You can literally just look at what's in front of you. But anyway, let's make a start. When it comes down to drawing hands, I tend to break things down into simple shapes, same as when we do other parts of the body. So with hands, I tend to use, well, start off with just something akin to a trapezium, right? Something like that, sort of warped rectangle. Okay, that's the base, that's the palm of your hand. After that, I'll go on to add a sort of triangle over here for that part of your thumb. And then I'll add the individual fingers. Now, if you're worried about the actual length of the fingers or how you want them to work, just literally just go like that. All right, and how long and how short you want the fingers, that depends on you, of course, because that varies in real life as well. Some people have big palms, some people have long fingers. It just depends from person to person, and you can play around with that. I'll leave you to play around with that. And one thing to note, as you can see, is that as I add these individual fingers, there can be a gap between them when they meet the palm of the hand. That, of course, is room for the webbing, if you want to add that later on. Also, with the thumb's a bit weird in that it has one less joint than your fingers, to some degree, unless we include this one here. But often this is seen, well, I guess this isn't really the thumb, is it? This is the metacarpal part. These parts, the phalanges, these, yeah, there's only two within the thumb, so it's a little bit different here. All right, and thumbs are always hard. If there's anything that ever looks off in my drawings of hands, it tends to be the thumb, because they're just a bit difficult to draw in general, because they're such weird and maneuverable parts of the body. All right, so there, basic hand. Now, if we want to start neatening this up, I know I'm drawing this a bit small, but I'm going to add some more drawings later on. If we want to start neatening this up, we can, of course, round off the tops a bit, make it go out slightly where the knuckles are, the joints are, and in on the inner parts. You can even put in your creases and stuff like that. How detailed it is up to you and what you're actually drawing. Of course, coming from someone like me who spends a lot of time drawing comics, I don't need heaps of detail in the hands, especially when they're far away a lot of the time, or small compared to everything else that's going on. So that will do. Put in the indentations for the metacarpals if you want. And of course, there you've got that joint where the wrist meets the ulnar and radius. All right, just like that. All right, and of course that will be different on different people, depending on their weight distribution or their muscle distribution. Once again, details for as much as you like when it comes to nails, and then there you go, voila, you got a wrist. Not a wrist, a hand. All right, so there we go. Now, like I said, hands come in loads of different shapes and sizes. So say if I wanted to do something a little bit thinner, right? Same rules. Long, thin fingers. A description that you always seem to read in books. There's always somebody with long, thin fingers. Okay, when I hear that, this is the sort of thing that I imagine. Just like so. All right, and of course you can vary that depending on how old the person is as well, because of course babies have shorter, pudgier fingers than a full-grown adult or an elderly person. Okay, if it's someone whose veins show a lot, then of course you're free to include those too. All right, but it's up to you, the variation that you want to put in. Now, this is all good and okay, but we're seeing it only from one angle. So how about if we change the angle? If we try and make it look 3D, say for example. Okay, let's have a look. So say if I want one coming towards me, a hand coming towards me, sort of like that. All right, so if this is we said a sort of rhombus, right? Not rhombus, a sort of trapezium, right? So imagine that is a 3D shape like that. All right. Then that's how we're gonna form our hands from now on. So if it's coming towards me, so it's not just flat, so I'm seeing it in 3 dimensions, then here we go. All right, so that's my hand now facing that way. So I just need to add on fingers and the thumb. So I can plan this out sort of like that. I won't go too much into foreshortening right now, but of course the closer it is to you, the bigger it will be. But these are guidelines now for that hand and those fingers. So we can now just start adding some body to those fingers, like so. All right, let's neaten this up a bit. Okay, let's get the thumb in there. Let me just look at mine as an example. Foreshortened fingers are one of the most awkward things to draw. They look wrong so often you would not believe it, even when they're right. All right, so there we go. Just make it a little bit clearer and just go over the edges so you can see that. So there's our thumb. There's the index finger, middle finger. Forefinger's looking a bit long, so I'm just going to shorten it down a bit. And little finger's looking a bit long too, so I'll shorten it down as well. All right, what about the guidelines inside? And we're close up, but we're still not quite there yet. Let's now make the palm look like it's got some weight to it. All right, so here we go. So that fatty part right there. And then right there. And right there. Okay. And then we're free to add the wrist and the tendons down here and go from there. Now, I could make that thicker if I wanted, just add more weight to it or make any adjustments necessary, but hopefully you get the basic idea, all right? It's still just following those basic shapes. That trapezium with that triangle with those rectangles. All right, that's all it is. That's all it is. All right, it's so simple. That's how you draw hands. Now, when it comes to getting more detailed things, especially if you're going for a more traditional route or if you're doing a page where the hand is at the forefront, it's one of the main focuses of the image, then for that, honestly, I say take a photo of your hand or keep your hand in that position that you want it to be in, and then just, you know, plot out those points with that shape that you've got there, and then go from there carefully, you know, looking at your object, which is your hand, and going back to your image. So the same way that you usually do with observational drawing. But when it comes to just your standard repetitious drawings of hands that you'll see on comic pages, or you'll do on anything to do with stuff that isn't necessarily going to be in high detail, isn't going to be the final product like a storyboard or something like that, then yeah, something like this is all that you need. You know, get those bare bones hands down, basic structure, looks like it should, still uses some reference, but isn't super detailed and hyper realistic. All right, hopefully that was helpful. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and there's lots of other videos for you to watch regarding anatomy, such as drawing the face and so on. So that's all for now. Until next time.